In October 2025, a leaked Telegram chat sent shockwaves through American youth politics, exposing a disturbing undercurrent that many suspected but few had seen so clearly documented. The leak quickly made headlines, igniting fierce debate and concern across the political spectrum. The chat, which spanned an astonishing 7 months, revealed a pattern of explicit racist, anti-Semitic, and violent language among prominent leaders of young Republican organizations from states like New York, Kansas, and Arizona. The sheer duration and frequency of these exchanges shocked many observers. These weren't fringe members or anonymous trolls. They were elected leaders, individuals entrusted with shaping the future of the young Republican National Federation and actively seeking to steer its direction on a national level. The group, calling themselves Restore YR, claimed to want reform and renewal within the organization. But the leak revealed that their vision was deeply rooted in hate, exclusion, and a willingness to use inflammatory rhetoric to achieve their goals. The language was shockingly explicit. Racial slurs, Holocaust jokes, and references to violence and sexual assault filled the chat logs. The content was so egregious that even seasoned political observers were taken aback. The revelations forced a national reckoning about the rise of extremism in youth politics, sparking urgent conversations about the future of the Republican Party and the values it wants to uphold. The incident quickly became a case study in accountability, digital transparency, and the far-reaching consequences of private speech when it becomes public in the digital age. Ultimately, it exposed deep divisions within the party and raised urgent questions about the culture shaping tomorrow's political leaders, leaving many to wonder how such attitudes could persist and what must change to prevent them in the future. The gravity of the leak was amplified by the identities of those involved. These were not just any individuals, they were prominent figures within the organization. Peter Giunta, chairman of the New York State Young Republicans, was a central figure. His ambition and leadership made his involvement especially alarming. His role was pivotal in shaping the direction of the group. William Hendrix, vice chair of the Kansas Young Republicans, repeatedly used racist slurs, showing this wasn't isolated to one region. His actions highlighted a disturbing trend. New York's chapter was heavily represented. Bobby Walker trivialized rape, making light of serious issues that should never be joked about. Joe Maligno joked about Nazi aesthetics, a deeply offensive and troubling behavior. And Annie Kaikati expressed violent fantasies, revealing a dark and dangerous mindset. These weren't anonymous trolls. They were elected leaders entrusted with shaping the party's future. Their positions gave them significant influence. Their participation suggested a culture of extremism festering within certain state chapters. This was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger, more troubling pattern. The group's goal was to take control of the young Republican National Federation, but the leak revealed their movement was built on hate. Their true intentions were now exposed. The fact that peers had chosen them as representatives made the betrayal even more damaging. It was a profound breach of trust. Their words weren't just personal, they reflected a toxic vision for the party's next generation. This vision threatened to undermine the values and integrity of the organization. The leaked chat was a window into unfiltered bigotry. Black people were dehumanized with slurs and racist caricatures, especially by William Hendrix, who used the N-word repeatedly. Anti-Semitism was just as blatant. Peter Giunta threatened opponents with gas chambers, and Joe Maligno replied with a grotesque Holocaust joke. The phrase "I love Hitler" appeared, and Nazi references were tossed around casually. This wasn't edgy humor. It was a chilling embrace of fascist and white supremacist ideology. For aspiring political leaders, such language was beyond the pale. The chat revealed a group bonded by hate, not just plotting strategy but sharing a worldview rooted in exclusion and violence. Their racism and anti-Semitism weren't side notes. They were central to their identity. The leak exposed a faction fundamentally at odds with American democratic values. It raised alarms about the future direction of the conservative movement. The chat's toxicity went beyond racism and anti-Semitism. It was saturated with violent fantasies and misogyny. Annie Kaikati wrote, "I'm ready to watch people burn now," while Peter Giunta fantasized about torture. Bobby Walker called rape epic, normalizing sexual violence and revealing a warped perspective. These weren't isolated comments. They reflected a culture where cruelty and domination were celebrated. The casualness was chilling. violence and misogyny were discussed as easily as political tactics. Such rhetoric has real-world consequences, emboldening others and creating a permission structure for extremism. The chat was a breeding ground for dangerous ideas, not just tolerated but encouraged. It painted a picture of a group seeking power not to govern, but to dominate and harm. The leak exposed a morally bankrupt subculture within the young Republicans. It was a stark warning about the dangers of unchecked extremism in political leadership. The fallout was swift and severe. News outlets exposed the chat, and the professional lives of those involved unraveled. At least 3 leaders lost public sector jobs, and another lost a congressional campaign opportunity. Employers and institutions drew a clear line: association with hate was unacceptable. Political resignations followed, with the Young Republican National Federation demanding all involved step down. The organization called the language vile and inexcusable, signaling a major blow to the chat members' ambitions. But the aftermath was messy. Public infighting erupted, with accusations of character assassination and political sabotage. The incident exposed not just individual bigotry, but deep fractures within the youth wing of the party. Some focused on the political fallout, while others demanded real accountability. The scandal revealed an organization struggling to confront its extremist elements. The political response was swift, but deeply divided. Democrats, including Chuck Schumer and Governor Kathy Hochul, condemned the chat and called for expulsions and investigations. Many establishment Republicans also denounced the messages and demanded resignations, recognizing the damage to the party's image. But others, like Vice President J.D. Vance, dismissed the outrage as pearl-clutching, arguing these were just offensive, stupid jokes in a private chat. This defense revealed a rift. Some Republicans saw the language as disqualifying, others as a minor transgression. The split exposed a fundamental disagreement about the party's moral boundaries. One faction demanded a purge of hate, the other downplayed or excused it if it came from their own side. This division over basic decency and accountability poses a major challenge for the GOP's future. The incident forced the party to confront its own identity crisis. The question remains, where does the line get drawn? The leak ignited a national debate. Were these just jokes, or something far more sinister? Suddenly, the country was forced to confront uncomfortable questions about the boundaries between humor and hate, and whether intent can ever excuse impact. Defenders claim the private setting excused the content, but the messages, slurs, Holocaust references, rape jokes, went far beyond dark humor. These weren't just tasteless attempts at comedy. They revealed a willingness to dehumanize and mock the suffering of others, even in spaces assumed to be safe from scrutiny. The just joking defense crumbled under the weight of the language's cruelty and historical baggage. Words, even when spoken in private, carry the power to wound, to perpetuate prejudice, and to normalize hate. Private speech, especially from leaders, reveals true beliefs and shapes public actions. What is said behind closed doors often seeps into policy, decision-making, and the culture of institutions. Leaders are held to a higher standard. Their private words matter because they influence policy and culture. The trust placed in them is built not just on public promises, but on the integrity they show when they think no one is watching. The idea that privacy shields bigotry is dangerous. What's said in private often guides public behavior. If hate is tolerated in secret, it can quietly shape the world outside those walls. The debate forced a reckoning. Do we accept leaders who harbor hate privately, but act differently in public? Or do we demand consistency between their words and their actions, both seen and unseen? The answer must be no. Character is holistic, and private bigotry disqualifies someone from public trust. Our leaders must embody the values they claim to uphold in every context. The chat wasn't a collection of jokes. It was a window into the character of those seeking power. It exposed the gap between public image and private reality. What was revealed was deeply disturbing. A reminder that the true test of leadership is not just what's said in public, but what's said when no one is supposed to be listening. The controversy underscored a vital truth. Private words have public consequences, especially for those in power. There's no real wall between private beliefs and public actions. Prejudices expressed in private shape decisions and leadership. Leaders who use slurs or joke about violence can't be trusted to protect the rights and dignity of all citizens. When such speech is excused by others in power, It signals that hate is tolerated in political circles. This normalization emboldens extremists and corrodes the values that hold society together. Integrity means aligning private and public values. The chat revealed a profound lack of it. The incident is a reminder. Judge leaders not just by public speeches, but by the content of their character. What's said in private often reveals the truth. Our democracy depends on leaders whose values are consistent, transparent, and rooted in respect for all. The leaked chat is more than a scandal. It's a lesson for the nation. Hate speech can't be dismissed as jokes. It's a dangerous ideology with real consequences. Accountability matters. Job losses and resignations showed that hateful speech, even in private, has repercussions. But divided reactions prove that accountability isn't guaranteed. It must be demanded. Young people have a choice: follow a path of intolerance, or build a future rooted in respect and inclusivity. This moment is a call to action for a new generation to reject hate and champion empathy. The story only came to light because someone had the courage to expose it. Silence in the face of hate is complicity. Speaking up is everyone's responsibility. Whether in private chats or public forums, confronting prejudice is a collective duty. The fight against hate begins with the courage to speak truth to power.